I recently bought iPhone 13 Pro. Everything is bigger and more pro here than on my previous phone. Big Pro upgrade, big Pro screen, big Pro battery and sweet big Pro cameras. But how to actually use them and make photos like pro Instagram influencers? Let's find out.
Power user.
We can improve our photos greatly using these few easy tricks. Don't worry, we're gonna use only our iPhone cameras and stock album app. Exactly, only the stock features of our iPhone, no additional apps and no additional accessories. And that's actually pretty easy if you follow these 3 simple steps. The first step is of course setting our iPhone camera properly. Let's head to the settings, camera and start from this page. I'm gonna focus today on photo settings and skip all video settings for now. Feel free of course to copy my camera settings if you are not sure what features will fit you. Let's start with formats. In this section we have to choose between traditional JPEG format or high efficiency image file format, also known as HEIC. To make you better understand those options, let's make a deeper dive how specific options look compared to each other. Let's check these photo samples to decide which one is better. On the first glance, the quality is almost identical, but after zooming in, we can see that HEIC has far less details than JPEG. I'm personally sticking to JPEG because of higher detail quality, and I don't mind additional megabytes. The big advantage of HEIC over the JPEG is the fact that your photos would have a significantly smaller size. Regular JPEG photo has approximately 5 to 10 megabytes and HEIC around 2 to 3 megabytes. It doesn't sound as much, but that's always something. Remember that this setting refers only to your regular non-RAW photos. I tested this and it doesn't impact RAW shots at all. Take a note that JPEG is a more popular format than HEIC, and not all devices and platforms support HEIC photos. Now we have our ProRAW settings of course. What is ProRAW, you might ask? That's a different format which takes advantage of 38 megapixel main camera to capture more data on photos. This is an option that you might consider if you are posting your photos for various social media platforms. RAW format allows you to more advanced editing of your photos, gives you way more flexibility when adjusting the color, exposure or white balance. You have to remember that picture size taken in this format can take up to 90 megabytes. Personally, I'm using the regular ProRAW option because I want to have the best possible image quality. The HEIC version of RAW is for people who still want to take advantage of RAW flexibility but don't have as much storage space. And as you can see, we are facing the same situation as I mentioned before. HEIC RAW has significantly less details than ProRAW. There is also an option for ProRAW with 12 megapixel camera, but I don't see any reason for not using our 38 megapixel sensor. When night mode is activated, iPhone automatically switches to 12 megapixel sensor anyway, just to capture more light. Next, preserve settings. Those settings allow you to preserve various settings in your camera app after you exit it. That's pretty handy if you want to have some specific camera presets and use them later on. Makes life a little easier. It totally depends on you. What options do you prefer? I chose, of course, live photos. They take up unnecessary space. Camera mode and creative controls. I'm not a fan of constantly changing the aspect ratio, and also ProRAW and resolution settings. If you are not sure which of these settings would fit you, you can just copy mine. Scan QR codes and show detected text. Of course, that's super handy. Grid is a super important feature that allows you to easily compose your photos before shooting. I'm always depending on grid, and I think all photographers also. Next is level. This is another highly helpful tool that shows us this plus symbol in the middle of our grid to perfectly center our shot. View outside the frame was useful in iOS 11. Nowadays it's only showing more frame behind camera interface. I recommend to switch it off just to avoid unnecessary distractions. Next we have photographic styles. I'm always using the standard option, just because I'm making all adjustments myself later. But if you want, you can choose whatever you prefer. We have a little preview here together with the description. Remember that you can always set the same effect later in the album map. Prioritizing faster shooting. When I tested this feature, it doesn't impact quality of the photos when doing regular photo shooting, only when using burst mode. After all, I decided to disable this feature due to not making any burst photos. Lens correction. This is only an aesthetical preference. Personally, most of the time I like this correction, but I have a little tip. If you want your photo to be more darker, turn this feature off and on if you want to make it brighter. And macro control. It allows you to turn macro on and off. So yes, we want to have this option on. That's basically it. Those settings should improve your photos right away. Let's move to the step number 2, camera app. One of the best features offered by iPhones is of course Great Camera app. It's easy to use and have a lot of features that will help you master your photography. So what do we have there? Right away, we can see our grid to compose our photos. A RAW button allowing us to switch between RAW and second file format we chose. For me this is gonna be JPEG. The macro button allowing us to turn macro off and on. Night mode button. Night mode basically forces our camera to take more time while shooting our photo to expose it. I recommend to set night mode to auto, just because it can be really helpful in very low light situations. If you have to take a picture right away during the night time, you can always disable it with this button. Flash. Disabled. There's nothing more shameful than making a flash photo in a place where flash is not allowed. It happened to me a lot of times, and that's why I changed it from auto to disabled. Live photo. Disabled of course. Live photos take additional space in your device and disables your ProRAW format. And the one thing that people always miss is this little arrow on top that shows us additional settings. You can as well swipe from the bottom. Here we have a bunch of new options like exposure, filters, but the most important thing there is the aspect ratio. 19% of the time I'm making photos using standard 4:3 aspect ratio, just because it's best for composing a photo. But sometimes I need to use 16:9 or 1:1 aspect ratio. And here we have these options. We also have the photographic styles button to enable some of the styles here. We can also quick edit them sliding left or right on the slider, but as I said, we can do all of this later in album app, so I recommend to keep it disabled, unless you don't have time to edit your photo later and you want to have applied edits right away. Next thing, how I usually do my photos. It's super easy when you previously set up all of those settings before. First of all, I make sure that I'm on a photo mode. I'm never using portrait mode because of its artificially sharpened details, especially on people's faces. Also, it adds digital blur to the background. Portrait mode photos just don't look natural and they are not aesthetically appealing. Next thing, I start to compose the object in the grid. At this point, I'm also deciding what lens I'm going to use. Most of the time, I'm using the 1x standard lens to take the benefits of the 38 megapixel sensor. But there are situations when I need to, for example, take a photo of a room, then I choose the wide lens that is perfect for this kind of job. Note that people will look awkward on wide lens, because this lens is going to stretch them. When the object is far away, I'm considering using 3x zoom, but only in specific situations, when it's really far away. I'm never using 2x though, because it's a zoomed version of 1x lens, and it's always better to crop the photo taken with 1x 38 megapixel camera than just using 2x. After choosing the lens and composing my objects in the grid, usually this white bar appears. Its purpose is to navigate you to the correct position of your frame to keep the photo aligned. When it's done, you would feel the haptic feedback, and the color of the bar would change to yellow. Then I'm hitting the screen to set camera focus to the specific location where my object is. And if I'm not satisfied with the exposure, I'm holding it and scroll top or bottom to change the exposure of the photo. After everything is set, I'm doing my photo. It's pretty nice, so let's do the last step to maximize its potential. Step number 3. The album app, the place where all the magic happens. You can edit on any other app of course, but I'm sticking mainly to the default album app, cause it's super fast, free, and in my opinion, the best. First of all, we have this auto option. This photo correction is not spectacular or anything, but it does the job when you are in a hurry, for example. I'm not using auto often, usually I'm setting everything myself from scratch. The first thing that is really important to me is setting the definition to 10, sometimes to 20, just to add a little bit of clarity to my photo. After definition, I'm heading back to the beginning and I'm setting the correct exposure level, just to make sure the photo is not over or underexposed. Sometimes the light in my photo is not bright enough, and to correct this, I'm using the brilliance slider. What is the correct level, you might ask? It always depends on photo that you shot earlier. Play around with it and check what is the best option for you. If brilliance and highlights are responsible for light in our photo, the shadows and black point are responsible for all dark pixels. We can set them also the way we like. I'm always sliding the black point slider a little bit up to achieve this crispy intense black color. Also, I'm adding a little bit of contrast to better separate elements of my photo. Then, I'm deciding if I want to make my photo more saturated or washed out. It depends on which exact mood we are aiming for. If we want to make our photo crispy and colorful, we have to adjust our saturation and vibrance slider up. To achieve the opposite effect, we have to take those sliders down. If we want, we can even lower the contrast. The warmth and tint slider are responsible for light color on our photos. It also depends on scenery. For more natural and calm lightning color, you can slide it up. To achieve more artificial blue light, turn this slider down. We also have additional settings here like sharpness, noise reduction and vignette. Hardly use them at all, but if it works for your photo, then play around with them. The same story goes with filters. I don't like them personally and don't use them. And the final section, crop section. Here we can straighten up our photo. Good straightened photo makes a huge difference. We have a few options here. Regular straightening, as well as vertical and horizontal. As always, choose that one that works the best for your photo. Remember to crop any unnecessary object out of your photo, if any appears. And that's it. Hope that with those 3 easy steps you can improve your photography and master your iPhone Pro camera. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and stay tuned for more. And today's sponsor is Power User. Power User is a fantastic YouTube channel about everyday modern technology. You can find their reviews, unboxing, shorts, and of course, a lot of interesting videos. The content is very informative and solid, and you should definitely check it out. Go and subscribe now.